Hi there, my name is MaryKate Staines and my final project presentation is on Down syndrome. Down syndrome occurs in meiosis when there is an error in cell division resulting in an extra copy of chromosome 21. Normally, there's 2 copies of chromosome 21 coming from the parents, so this one makes it 3 copies in chromosome 21 in each cell for people with Down syndrome. This is also called a chromosomal non-disjunction. It is typically not inherited as it randomly occurs, so there's no genetic marker. This means that Down syndrome is not dominant, recessive, homozygous, nor heterozygous. As for the phenotype, there's a long list of appearances and symptoms of Down syndrome, including the intellectual limitations and developmental delays. Something to note is the dysmorphic facial features of the flat head, abnormal outer ears, small flattened nose, slanted eyes, proportionally large tongue to a small mouth. Something else to note is how they're more susceptible to other health issues involving the heart or epilepsy, involving seizures, and they have weak muscles and hearing and vision issues. There are 3 kinds of Down syndrome. I've already mentioned the first one, the trisomy 21, which occurs in over 90% of the cases. Mosaic Down syndrome occurs in 2%, where they have some cells that have that extra copy of chromosome 21, and some of their cells just have the normal 2 copies. This results in fewer features shown in these people. The last kind is translocation Down syndrome, which is the only kind that can be passed down from a parent to a child. Part of the chromosome is attached to another chromosome before or at conception, and this extra material turns into that extra chromosome 21. This translocation-induced Down syndrome that I just mentioned is still not dominant nor recessive because it's still caused by a random fault in the cell division phase of meiosis. The effect on proteins is how the potential disruption of the proteostasis network and accumulation of misfolded protein occurs in these people. People who are at greater risk of giving birth to someone with Down syndrome includes the older the mother gets, the greater the risk, and the carriers of the genetic translocation-induced Down syndrome that I just mentioned. As for current research, scientists are still unsure why chromosome 21 issues happen and why the problem happens in chromosomal division. So the research going on right now is a narrowed search to the specific genes causing it and the mechanisms behind the symptoms of Down syndrome. The hopeful outcome is to find more effective treatments and someday a cure to Down syndrome. Someone who found some groundbreaking research is Dr. Lawrence of UMass Medical School in his XIST chromosome therapy, where they are silencing extra chromosomes and pluripotent stem cells donated by someone with Down syndrome by inserting an RNA gene into the extra chromosome 21. Tests that are involved with Down syndrome is first a screening test, and after a positive screening test, there's diagnostic tests. So something to note is even though a negative screening test occurs, it's not a 100% guarantee that the child will not have Down syndrome. So the diagnostic tests available are CVS, amniocentesis, and percutaneous umbilical blood sampling. And this happens in each trimester. At birth, there's 2 different kinds of analysis, karyotype and FISH. So karyotype is the original genetic makeup analysis under a microscope, and FISH is the newer kind, where it is able to determine how many copies of chromosome 21 there are, but is not able to diagnose the specific kind, complete mosaic or translocation. But how it's better than karyotype is that it's not necessary to culture the cells before analyzing it. So there is no cure for Down syndrome. So doctors focus on the specific symptoms by their health issues that are presented in their hearing and vision exams, as well as giving them the normal immunizations to reduce the risk of health problems that they're more vulnerable to than someone without Down syndrome. To enhance their motor skills and developmental skills, there's a lot of physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy involved to make them more independent in the real world. Relevance to society. So Down syndrome is pretty common. So they're integrated in society more than ever, whether it's in school, work, or social activities. So there's a lot of organizations working to increase the widespread education about Down syndrome and hoping to get more people to embrace the acceptance. So DSRF, GDSF, NADS, and NDSS are just a few of the organizations that strive for the cause. The relevance to individuals like you and I are to realize that people with Down syndrome have the ability to graduate high school or even further, and the life expectancy is increasing from 50 to 60 to even 70 years old. So people need to work to be more informed and educated about Down syndrome and be able to accept them. This also occurs to people involved in the industry because a lot of people with Down syndrome have high school diplomas, so they have the ability to get paid jobs and handle responsibility. Something I wanted to note is the high school that I previously attended includes their special education program in bocce, softball, and best buddies. And we recently won a championship, which was awesome because we embrace the collaboration between people with and without Down syndrome and are able to have acceptance and embrace their motor skills. How it relates to this class is that we've learned about trisomies already, comparing Down syndrome, the most common one, to Edward and Patel. Down syndrome has a longer life expectancy and are able to live longer, and we learned more about the appearance of Down syndrome. That is my presentation. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.